Hey, how's it going, everyone? Happy Monday. My name's Peter Bittner. I am half of the founding team at the Upgrade.ai. I have with me today Kris Krüg, my colleague. He and I have been teaching courses for the last year and a half together on everything related to AI. Kris, how you doing today?
Hey, what's up, internet? What's up, Peter? Doing pretty good, man. Dialing in here from Vancouver, BC, and yeah, we've got some coaching we're doing later this afternoon. We're kicking off an Indigenomics event at the Space Center, all focused around AI. So yeah, it's a big Monday for me, and I'm stoked to be talking about this Creative Pros course with you here. We've got like 100 peeps who wanted to come to this info sesh, and yeah, just kind of like share a little bit about our approach and our perspective and let you kind of experience our style for how we like to share this type of information and stuff. So yeah, man, stoked to be here.
Awesome. If you're tuning in, drop a comment. Let us know where you're joining from. And we hope to make it participatory. If you are here, let us know live. Even if you're watching the replay, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Drop us a comment as well. We'd love to hear, who this showed up for. And if it resonates with you in particular, you can always find us and DM us too on LinkedIn. We're very active there. Without further ado, we have a bit of a mini lecture prepared about knowledge bases, which I think personally really get lost in a lot of, the hype around prompting in particular, right? Prompts are great. They are important, right? We all recognize, that it is a new skill that we're going to need to master. But without a good knowledge base, your prompts are going to have to reuse them all the time. They're going to be really limited, right? Brian, great to see you here. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Hey, we have some folks from Squamish, from Seattle, from California. Awesome. Michael, good to see you. We're also really excited to have folks here live with us. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. It is finally sunny for the first time in about a month. It's been way too long, and the blossoms are out. It's a beautiful day. KK, where are you tuning in from?
I'm here at my studio in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Awesome.
Peter
Awesome.
Duran, nice to see you, bro. One of the world's leading graphics facilitators and note takers at big world events. Really cool to see you, man.
Yeah, keep those comments coming. If you're just tuning in and joining us, please let us know where you're watching from. And we'll have other chances here to ask you some questions and also get some feedback. So
You'll
we
find that people will lovingly refer to Peter and I's style as kind of the professor and the pirate. And I'm going to go ahead and board your ship right now, Peter. I want to start by just saying creative professionals. I'm not just talking about artists and illustrators here. We're talking about, we've really blown up the idea of creativity to anyone who makes things out of nothing for their job. So we're talking designers and we're talking marketers. We're talking filmmakers and photographers, and you know who you are, but I just wanted to kind of open up that definition right from the beginning, that this is a big group. It's marketing people, it's art directors at ad agencies and stuff like that, and these are the people who really have a transformational experience in our class. And then the other thing I wanted to add, Peter, just right up front, is when we're talking about knowledge bases, like what do we even mean? And the idea here is just like attaching stuff about the stuff we care about to our interactions with AI. And the idea is like, how do we create awesome ones that serve us really well? And I've been on like almost a 2-year mission to improve the quality of the outputs that I'm getting from all sorts of AIs by augmenting with them with the best information about myself, my clients, and the world around me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for jumping in there. I mean, we've had people come from all different sides of creativity or creative industry, right? We've had designers, developers, CEOs, people from all walks of life get a lot out of the class. But let's jump into the content. So we have, I guess, as co-founders here, some different lenses through which we approach this stuff. And Kris mentioned that sort of I'm more of the professorial type. I run the slide decks typically, and I've taught at UC Berkeley for the last 8 years in the new media department at the Graduate School of Journalism. My background is in visual media and journalism. I've worked in tech startups as well as a correspondent in Mongolia doing drone cinematography back in the day. That was kind of my first career chapter. And now I get the chance to full time, lead trainings and classes and consulting all about how to utilize AI at the highest level, regardless of what type of industry you're coming from. Kris, why don't you give people a little bit of an idea of how you know, approach this as well?
Sure. I built my first website in 1998, and I've been essentially immersing myself in media and publishing and community online since then. I've had a couple of startups, and my success with those companies led me to being a world traveling photographer, essentially. And I got to go around the world working on the coolest gigs for National Geographic and Rolling Stone magazine and other big photographic clients. But I also got to be, I've been teaching for pretty much 20 years how artists and creatives can approach technology to empower themselves, find their voice, build their audience, and like without hyperbole, essentially, you know, live their dreams. We live in a really unique time, as we all know, and here it's changing on us again. And I found this change in my embracing of it and exploration of it to lead me to this place now where I feel as creative and as powerful and as productive as I've ever been in my whole career.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I think it's not too late to get a handle on this stuff, right? We hear from a lot of people saying, you know, "I've missed the boat." You have not. It is still extremely early. Yes, things are moving really fast, but in every single cohort we teach, you know, obviously our content is updated and fresh and new, but people leave with, you know, framework and a mindset, as well as a lot of just best practices are going to serve them no matter what type of tool, right? Whatever type of AI models you're using or products, or even mediums, right? If
Yeah.
you're talking about text, visual, image, right? Video, audio, whatever. We're here to make sure you're prepared to jump in and really tackle this stuff, regardless of how fast it's coming at you, right? And so today's agenda, in a nutshell,
Well,
of the
Peter, I was just going to add to that, like
yeah,
your ability to hold down these presentations and PowerPoints allows me to completely be the creative technology hacker of the team. I'm constantly building new experiments, pushing the boundaries, and integrating those techniques into my work with my clients, sharing them weekly on the calls with everybody and stuff. And at the end of today's call, I'm going to show a tool that I built called Whisper Forge that takes everything we've been talking about, everything I've been learning for the last couple of years, and puts a cherry on top. And that's an unreleased tool that I get to share with the world this week. And you guys will get to be the second group of people to ever see it.
Yeah, stick around. It's mind blowing. I'm really excited to see how it's changed over the last week or so. I know you've been tinkering with it and upgrading it. In the meantime, let's just kind of get to it here. We have a pretty tried and true framework. This one came to us through a colleague of ours, but this is a really solid just approach to prompting. And it's good to just kind of like establish a little bit of common approach here before we jump into some of the tools and talk about how to leverage some of the knowledge based portions. You still do need some prompts and in some ways, it's the other half of the coin, right? Without a good prompt, your knowledge bases can't be put to work. Without a good knowledge base, your prompt really has nothing to draw from. And so they're both really important. And this POP
We,
framework,
we all think we kind of know what prompts are and stuff, and we do. We prompt AIs all day long. But you know, we're moving towards showing you how to build like assistants and agents, and the two critical components of all system, you know, all of these agents and assistants are they've got a system prompt and a knowledge base. And so we're going to show you how to get good at both of those things.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, we go really deep down the rabbit hole too, into variable based prompting and into the world of, you know, very technical stuff for folks who want to build those. We have courses in the pipeline, and have taught many for very technical folks who want to build and automate AI agents that will, you know, run their whole business. But we also really teach at the beginner level here and start there too. And so there's no technical background at all required to come into our courses. And the Creative Pros one, we throw this at people pretty early up front. It's one of a number of frameworks that we typically introduce, but this persona, who should the AI model act as, you know, assigning it, pretend that you are or act as if you have, or you can simply say you are a, you know, marketing guru, world leader in creating incredible copy or marketing strategies or brand designs, whatever it is. And then the next part typically is here's what you're doing, right? Here's the task and your mission, right? acting as this person now. Here is your purpose, right? And here's what you need to do. And the parameters are the third part of it here. And that includes sort of the format, what we're looking for in terms of that final product. So let me know in the chat. I would love to hear from you guys if you're still tuning in here live, what you think in terms of best prompting practices. Like, do you approach things with this? Maybe intuitively, a lot of us use these without realizing, right? Just through trial and error. But let us know if you have a good prompt
The
framework that
persona
you
one
like.
can be fun. I just like to sit there and invent the person in my head who could be the world's biggest guru, and I don't constrain myself to reality. And so I'm like, you're a marketing executive with 150 years experience, who's won, awards across every industry, including advertising, public relations, corporate communications, graphic design, and you hang out in my office and let me ask you questions all day or something like that. I create just this super being and then start to interrogate it.
That's right. Yeah. And so, it's also persona part, your opportunity to imagine who your dream colleague would be or collaborator, right? And really build them up. The more specific you get, in many cases, the better results you'll get. But so this is kind of our approach. You'll see as we go into some of our sort of systems prompts related to these knowledge bases. But just to give credit where credit is due. So this was borrowed from our colleague, Pete Patchell, who is founder of the Media Copilot and a co-instructor of ours for another course we run specifically for PR and media pros. That course is still ongoing right now. We have a number of other courses that we teach in addition to the creative pros. But let's just get down to it. What the heck is a knowledge base, Kris? Do you want to kind of take this one on?
Well, I think at the most basic level, if you're building something that maybe like writes or thinks like you, it could be like a writing style guide and maybe like your resume and maybe like a couple examples of past work or something like that, a link to your portfolio site. For a client, it could be their brand guidelines. It could be again like a writing guide or a perspective document. It is the group of documents, a collection of information that flesh out the topic that we're talking about. It could be huge data sets. Like if you're building something for marketing, you could be having your newsletter log files as one piece of knowledge in your knowledge base, and a writing style guide is another, and maybe the technical requirements document for your email platform in there as well. So you could just be talking to an assistant about all things related to that form of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really depends, right? It's up to you to sort of curate your own knowledge base and really decide with your own real human critical thinking abilities what is important and relevant for this specific project or client or task, right? That you're creating an AI assistant for, right? Whether that is a GPT, a Claude project, a Google Notebook LM, and we'll go into each of those in a few minutes here and talk about, where the knowledge base portion goes, why it's so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I use Notion as my own personal knowledge base, and I have a knowledge base that's grown to be thousands of pages now, and it represents pretty much every good conversation I've had with an AI somewhere along the way, makes it back into my knowledge base so that I can like ask it questions or draw from it in the future or whatever. And that's taken me a couple years to get there, and the power of it has revealed itself gradually along the way or whatever. So that's kind of like my main mothership knowledge base. And then I've got sub ones, like you said, like I've got one with 50 documents related to AI journalism in Notebook LM that I use to prepare courses and curriculum for another program that I run. So yeah, I've bifurcated into multiples, but I still have my main second brain in Notion.
Yep. So, there's a lot of ways in which you can organize and curate your info, both at sort of a systems level across your team, your organization, right? And many of us, use things like Google Workspace or Drive, right? Or maybe you're on a Microsoft suite, right? And you're working in something like SharePoint or OneDrive, whatever it is. You're probably already building a substantial knowledge base. And so a lot of what we do with some of our corporate clients and trainings is figuring out, how do we put that to work for us, right? How do we leverage it and make sure that it's not just sitting there, right? The beautiful thing about knowledge bases is that with AI, they can really do some awesome things, right? So
Yeah.
why? why useful?
I was just going to add too, Peter, just right at the, for people who are at the very, very beginning of their AI journey, this is just a very useful exercise as you get to know AIs. It's like, well, what are you going to sit there and talk about the very first time as you're trying to figure this out? Well, why don't you ask it about, what do you see about me? What do you know about me? What do you know about my company? How should I approach the future? What are designers doing with AI? So just this back and forth, starting to talk to AIs about yourself or your company or your projects, result in information that can then later be distilled down into different components of this knowledge base. So it's a great way if you're just starting your AI journey to have kind of a focused approach to building something of value.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And so it really helps to improve not only sort of the accuracy, relevance, coherence, right, and reduce what you might hear the word hallucinations about a lot these days, right, which is those errors or sort of weird, unintended, unaligned, sort of really bizarre responses that, in particular, in very early stages, we saw a lot of those. The AI models are getting better and better at reducing those, but they still happen. And one of the best ways to make sure that you can trust and rely upon this info, that you're getting back from the AI models is by making sure that you have a knowledge base that it's drawing upon, right? And you still need to do human review, right? Let's be real.
But we're in a creative professionals focused class, so I would not be Kris Krüg if I didn't say, yeah, hallucinations are one way of looking at it when AI synthesizes some irrelevant bullshit into a fake answer and then tries to justify it with a bibliographical citation. Clearly a problem. However, one of the ways I use AIs all the time, even late last night, preparing for some of the stuff I have to do today, is visual brainstorming. And like the same thing that would be called a hallucination if you're looking for a bibliography would be called like visual brainstorming if you're trying to explore a bunch of different creative directions and create some new stuff that hadn't existed before and then focus it back in through the process. So well, one man's hallucination is another man's visual brainstorm.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, again, yeah, it really depends on what you're looking for out of the AI model, right? Maybe you really want some pretty wild stuff, and that's going to help you in your process of exploration, right? So yeah, that's a great point. Why knowledge bases matter, this really also helps really cut down the amount of time you need to spend sort of machete hacking your way through a thread with ChatGPT and iteration time, right? This really condenses that, and oftentimes you can kind of get a one shot out of it, which is to say one prompt, one result, and guess what? It's about 97% of the way there. You can go edit it after that, right? And so that's the goal of all of this. And we've had people who've come through our course. Cam, for example, who's built an incredible AI sales agent, essentially, which has a knowledge base of his specific relevant information for all the products and things that he sells, and has that hooked up to an AI agent that uses that knowledge base to then draft queries, responses to emails that are inbound, right? And so it saves him a ton of time. He's getting, customized drafts that are ready in his inbox to send off with a quick review, that are drawing upon all that amazing knowledge, dozens and dozens of pages worth of product info and pricing and all this stuff, tailored to whoever is coming into his inbox, right? So it's pretty amazing what you can do. Cam has been playing around with something called Mind Studio, which is a great tool to build some AI agents, right? But you don't have to be using anything fancy, right, to get some of the best results from this stuff. So let's kind of dig into it. What belongs in a knowledge base? Like, short answer is it's up to you, but kind of anything could go in there, right? I don't know what your take on that is, KK, but you could
I've had fun trying to figure out what makes them the best. And so, for my one client, Indigenomics Institute, I've ingested a couple books written by our executive director, Carol Ann Hilton, and built a writing style guide in her voice. I've also applied a different prompt to the books and stuff, and gotten back a worldview and perspectives document that clearly articulates what she thinks. I've also been able to use those docs to make a glossary and an anti-glossary of hundreds of terms that we use. They make up our vocabulary, and hundreds of terms we just don't use, either because they're not a part of how we talk about things. Maybe they use war metaphors or other colonial language or something like that. And then, I augment that with keynotes. Anytime she gives a keynote, I show up with my audio recorder, I transcribe it to text. I add the whole text transcript straight on in there as well. I personally exported my LinkedIn recommendations and endorsements as one file that's called what other people are saying about me. And so it's like a reflection back on me, but from other people's lens as opposed to through my own or AI's. There really becomes it becomes a fun rabbit hole of what types of information could you put in this thing to give this nascent intelligence a fuller picture of whatever it is you want to talk to it about.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of what we teach in the class too, and in some of our one-on-one coaching sessions with students is, how to really know how to curate and best match, the knowledge-based materials to your AI assistant for your specific project and needs, right? And it really is pretty amazing what you can do with them once you figure it out, how best to organize this info and put it to work, so to speak. So here's a couple ideas, for how you might best utilize knowledge bases, for some pretty quick wins, right? These are some things that are on the less technical side, right? Who here listening, let us know in the chat if you're tuning in. I know you are, because I see we have live viewers here. Let us know, have you built a GPT before? Have you created a Claude project? Have you made and spun up a Google Notebook LM yet? These are all tools that I now go to pretty much every day for things, and ChatGPTs, custom GPTs in particular, are amazing. As Kris mentioned, most of these different tools will have a system prompt, right? We presented that POP framework earlier as one way to approach a system prompt for an AI assistant. And then the file upload side of things is kind of the other half of that, right, equation, and maybe even more, right? I guess it's probably, you got to have both. The file uploads that you make in a GPT are really important, though. And I think the more you add the right files, the better results you're going to get. So yes, as a LinkedIn user, awesome. Which ones do you go to? Which are your go-to tools? Very curious if you're watching the replay as well. Let us know.
I've built about 50 GPTs since they came out, and there's a handful that I use every single day, and a lot of them have gotten so good where I don't even actually prompt them anymore. I can drop links in or cut and paste text in, and they know so much about who they are, where they come from, what they need, that they just do my bidding when I drop the stuff in.
Yeah. Peter says he uses ChatGPT often and Notebook LM. Yeah. So you've dabbled in that. So we'll talk about both of those a little bit. Let me go over to ChatGPT, and we can kind of just briefly go over how you might approach these knowledge bases on these different platforms here. So I'll show you, and I'm going to zoom out a minute for how we got here. But this is the look at sort of the customization view of a GPT, and you'll see that these GPTs live on the top left of your screen panel, right? You can even minimize that panel, but this is where it looks like you can find them. You'll even see an Explore GPTs. So I have a bunch pinned here, right? These are ones that Kris and I have made and share and use quite often or experiment with. The one that I'm going to show you here that I having a great time with lately is this one specifically actually for this class. We have this AI for Creative Pros course that,
I'm gonna cut you off again, Peter, real quick.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple mantras that I just feel like are like rules to live by when it comes to AI, and one of them is like never sit down in front of a dumb AI. So never sit down in front of a logged out AI and just start asking it questions. It doesn't know who you are, how you like to be talked to, any context about anything, and it's gonna give you stuff that seems all right, but it's just gonna be the stuff that anyone else can get anywhere else, right? So you want to be setting up your custom instructions in your profile, setting up your memory so it knows who you are and how you like to be talked to, and that'd be like a great first step. Then if you find yourself doing something more than once ever, in AI. Never ask it the same question twice. If you got to ask it a question and then ask it again, make it a custom GPT and improve
Mhm.
that every time you use it. Just, change your prompt a bit, add some more data or docs over time. So no dumb AIs. And if you do it twice, make a GPT out of it.
That's right. Yeah. And you also see that I have some projects set up here, right, within ChatGPT as well. Works the same way, right, in terms of, the value of adding in and curating your knowledge bases. And we can talk a little bit about what the differences are between a custom GPT and how it uses knowledge versus, the projects here. Long story short, Claude actually launched their own projects. ChatGPT kind of copied that and brought that over a little bit later. They both work very similarly. They're both pretty nice in a lot of ways. But I see Nessa uses a lot of tools. That's great. Thanks for tuning in and dropping us a line there. I also see another user using Versal. That's awesome. We have, a mini sort of student capstone highlight that will show of someone who just really went deep into the vibe coding territory, a designer who just completely transformed her professional portfolio using these. And we teach and really go deep in a lot of that type of stuff too. But
Yeah,
let's,
I mean, I don't want to say too much really right now because it's a bit, I could just go off, but these
yeah.
whole new like prototyping tools, like these no code tools like V0 or, Lovable and stuff, they're incredible. And they've changed our whole creative professions all over again. I feel like in the last couple months, I can prototype web apps while in client meetings. And, if you're a creative professional, you know that many times when a client comes to you with a job or a brief, they don't actually know what they want. And it's only
Mhm.
through the giving them back what they've asked for that they realize, oh, actually, I didn't even ask the right question, or I need to do some more research. Thanks for giving me what I asked for, but it's not what I'm looking for. And so I found that this process of like helping a client understand their brief or their requirements, generating some prototypes, and then walking and clicking them through what their prototypes actually look like, make the client interaction process so much better, and it really just accelerates it by weeks. Instead of going away and building a prototype in isolation, bringing it back to the client and having them take a shit on it, you can actually just be like, hey, let's work this out together, figure out what you really need, and then I can go away and make it work for you. So
Yeah.
I'm super stoked about these tools, and I'm exploring them deeply daily right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that Peter in the comments there is using a Miro when facilitating online. That's a great one. Figma has some great AI stuff for design too that a lot of our students use. I mean, AI is coming to every tool within your creative stack that you're already using, right? And if you're not putting it to proper use, you're really missing out. And there's a lot of cool ways in which you can, be doing more stuff, better quality stuff, right? Way faster. You don't have to revert to the mean and have it be blah. Like that's really what a knowledge base helps with, as well as a lot of what our courses really focus on. But let's talk about this GPT here, right? And so this is a V2 of an AI assistant or custom GPT that is really focused on helping us create a lot of types of materials based on our last cohort's class transcripts, as well as slide decks, as well as our own brand guidelines. And so, if you'll see here, we have in the GPT on the left-hand side of this panel, we have the name here, the description, the instructions are really where you would put in that sort of pop framework. And we have here, right, persona, right up front, right? And so this is identity and purpose, as well as objective
Mhm.
built in here, right? So you're a writing assistant purpose built for Kris Krüg and Peter Bittner at the Upgrade, right? And so you'll see here as I scroll down, right, your role is to, that's its mission, right? There we go. Objective still, as well as further on, you're going to really describe the parameters. So here are the steps you're going to take, right? Identify the type of communication requested, right? Could be a landing page, right? It could be an FAQ section, social posts, blog posts, whatever. And so we have a great set of system instructions that we've used and built with a different GPT that Kris spun out, which is pretty awesome. And you'll see this is also part of the parameters, the output format in Markdown, which is pretty universal to be able to copy and paste it over between a lot of different, types of programs, Word docs, Google Docs, whatever. and it has in a little bit about our brand voice. But one of the key things here is also underneath here, the knowledge section. You'll
All
see there's
those little pink icons are a treasure trove. Those represent
right,
hours and hours
right.
of lectures turned into transcripts where it knows exactly what we think and talk about the questions that come up, our responses to those questions. Sometimes
Our
it's got the
individual
chat log.
voices. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the chat log from the side of the Zoom from our class right in there where people are asking questions. I'm usually on the chat while Peter's lecturing, answering questions, sharing links. I summarize that all into guides and stuff, and so that we can attach those to here. And
Yeah, so this is a pretty fun one here, and we can just do a quick demo preview, but like let's create a social post after our LinkedIn Live to promote our upcoming course and announce the early bird deadline cutoff for 25% off on Wednesday, April 9th, right? So this is something I haven't even really told it. I would probably also add additional context within the individual thread here, and I give them a description of this LinkedIn Lives page, right, and other things. But
we
it's
might have missed it. But if you haven't used a custom GPT before, there was a little message that happened that was like searching my knowledge base and documents, and that means it's
that's the
actually
magic.
referencing those pink icons.
That's right. Yeah, that's some magic. And so knows all about the course, right? This is all spot on. The messaging is definitely, yeah, feels like us and our tone. Nice. And we even have a quote from one of our actual alums, which is great. Used to write resumes in 8 hours. Now my GPT does it in 8 minutes, and it sounds like me, right? So that's an example
Shout
of
out Sam Waterfall.
yeah. Shout out Sam, doing some amazing stuff with his business as well.
That's pretty cool, Peter. I haven't actually seen it pull quotes out of the things like that and drop them into the promo. That's a good improvement. Nice job.
Yeah, so there's lots of cool ways you can use these, right? But this is looking pretty good, right? And
Like, if
this is
you hadn't been using a custom GPT or you were sitting in front of a dumb AI, it would give you that same quote, but it wouldn't be your actual student. It would be a lie. It'd be totally made up by some fake person.
that's right. Yeah. So Michael's asking, does Perplexity allow you to create your own GPT? No, but it does have projects. And so this is a good point to actually pivot a little bit and talk about this concept of projects, right? Because
I also want to add like the sources thing. Like Perplexity is
Mhm.
slightly different in how we think about it as a research tool or Google replacement. So it does allow you to do a custom source list, which is like, I'm only interested in these news articles from Canada, or I'm only
Mhm.
interested in right wing or left wing news, or whatever your angle is. You can constrain the sources that Perplexity searches to a group of them.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And so Perplexity calls their projects spaces here, right? Um, but they all work very similarly. So let me start with the OG, which is Claude here, and their projects, right? And so Claude is a product of Anthropic, right? And it was founded by some early executives, co-founders of OpenAI. Long story. They have some great models, right? And so we have in here some existing projects that I could show, but let's just think about starting one from scratch, like many of you probably will, right? Create a personal project. So let's imagine again that Kris and I are doing sort of some promo for our new course,
You
right?
should do one, Peter, for your new getting into college app that you're building.
Yeah, so I spun one up. I can show you because that one has some cool stuff in it, right? And so I have yeah, so this was a vibe coding project that actually came out of the class and is kind of taking on a little bit of a life of its own. So Kris has
Yeah, this is
his Whisper
awesome. This is
Forge.
a nicely filled out one.
Yeah, so this is probably better demo too, right? But this is the project knowledge section on the right-hand side. Kris is going to show his Whisper Forge, so stick around because that is mind-blowing and that's like fully custom. He's really gotten way down the rabbit hole with some great stuff that does similar things, but to the next level as a Claude project, right?
It just takes all this stuff and strings it together in an automated way so I can press one button and get all the types of things out of it. But this is pretty tidy, Peter. I'm appreciating this right now. You know, I'm also, this is at an intermediate or advanced level thing, but in Claude, you can kind of like fill up its knowledge base. And if you fill it up too much, your ability to talk back and forth to it in each context window gets shorter and shorter based on how much knowledge you add. So
right.
on that previous screen you had there, Peter,
Mm-hmm.
just below the little that little blue progress indicator to
Yep.
me is like, this is a good one, because
Yeah.
if it speaks and thinks like you, but your blue box is only 14% used, that means you're leaving the other 85% that actually have
On the
conversations
table.
with the tool. I had built this one that was incredible, but the thing was closer to 90%, and I could only talk to it for, you know, maybe 10,000 tokens or something like that before I'd get shut off. And yeah, it was
Yeah. Yeah,
bueno.
that's interesting. I think that's going to improve as the products continue to as well. But right now you'll see, like, I have created a knowledge base here that has a bunch of, in this case, like PRDs, right? What is that? It's a, product,
Requirements
essentially
document.
like requirements document. It's a kind of a technical thing for just like a roadmap for your AI assistants, right? In this med school copilot, actually, this is a vibe coding project that I can just show you because it's live. But this is all made on something called Lovable. It's a concept. This is essentially kind of a stand up. But the cool part is, it
What you're
consists.
looking at, Peter prompted into existence using his POP framework in the way that many of us are using GPT right now. Literally,
That's right.
build me a website that does this function that speaks to this audience, and might start like that, but now he's supplementing it with other docs as well, like these PRDs, to make it better.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. So, we use the same exact principles, and we'll show another one of our students amazing personal portfolio projects. And this is, also all vibe coded, right? Like it's connected to Stripe and stuff. You can go, buy it. This is all in beta, right? So don't go buy it. The agents aren't all built yet, but in the Claude project, I have a lot of friends who are applying to medical school right now. That's how this came up. But one of the cool things is that actually the national governing body, AMCAS, for medical applications in the United States allows the use of AI. They're very progressive and realistic about it, right? They know people are going to use it. And so this is kind of also a market opportunity in some ways, right? And there's a ton of these coming up in class. We have a lot of students who are entrepreneurial, who are thinking about, new types of ways of doing knowledge work and kind of leading the charge with that stuff. And so this is, one example, but you'll see here that we have, the prompt here, the system prompt, and I kept it pretty broad, right? Basically, you're going to help me with sort of the business plan and product management. And this is sort of the real lightweight prompt that I've put into it because I want it to be pretty multi-purpose, right? Here's the basics of what the platform does. It helps with school matching, application analytics, drafting essays, mock interviews, etc. Your role is to act as a strategic co-founder, right? And so I love using it as a thought partner, right? And feeding it good stuff here. In this case, these are PRDs that I made with a different, individual AI assistant thread. So these are underneath it here, previous conversations, right? So I've been playing around with this. How are we even have some, let's see here, law school admissions ideas. Like, what would it look like if we took this to a different type of market, right? Like, help me think through what that could look like.
So you've made an assistant for your new project, and it also threads all your stuff together in terms of the previous
Right.
conversations, and
Yep.
it gives you a
My
place
previous chat.
to drop all your knowledge over time and grow it out.
That's right. That's
Pretty
right.
impressive.
Yeah. And it's actually helping me create a, product roadmap and think about, what I actually need to do to develop this as a real business if I wanted to, right? And so um that's a cool one. I know people asked about Perplexity. So Perplexity has a similar thing, but Perplexity is really entirely built for live web search, right? And so it's different. I mean, Claude now has live web search
Peter's
enabled.
a Perplexity master. We play the game sometimes, like if you had to drop all their tools, what would you drop? And Peter always chooses Perplexity. And he's showed me some stuff in Perplexity that has blown my mind. Like he developed a demo 3 weeks ago for one of our classes where You could, instead of talking to Perplexity every day, you could be like, yo, I'm interested in Vancouver and BC AI ecosystem related headlines in the future, and just go ahead and email those to me in the morning. And so it's just a very, very basic automation that he made a video about that allows Perplexity to just be out there working for him all the time and sending him interesting stuff when it happens. It's pretty. And so I built
Yeah,
that.
you can
Built
set
that.
off notifications. Yeah, there's lots of cool ways to use it. But similarly, right, you can in Perplexity add, let's say, let's call it AI for creative pros. Description, I'm just going to skip that. The custom instructions here also optional, but I could really add some that say, again, similar to the GPT instructions over here. Maybe I'll just pop some of those in, actually, thinking about it. This could be a useful one. Maybe I'm going to
I also just iterate. So I usually throw Peter's pop framework in. I give it the persona right away. I might just even say you're an assistant or you're Kris Krüg's assistant. That's in a persona. And the next time I use it, I might upgrade it or whatever.
Yeah.
I just like drop in the most basic thing and then upgrade it next time around.
Exactly. And so that's kind of the cool thing. So again, we can upload files here as part of our sort of curated mini knowledge base for this. And so I could duplicate and upload all of these same ones, right? And what this really does is it makes it accessible within sort of its contextual short-term memory, right? It's people use the term of like, oh, it's trained on all the time, incorrectly, right? These AI models you're not training AI models when you're uploading this. That is a very different and incredibly like labor and technical process of, yeah, a lot of different things here. But what you're really doing when you're adding files as an upload here, or you are, I guess you guys can't see that. Yeah, adding links is you're basically populating the context window here with all the relevant good stuff you want it to really focus on to generate its output for you. And that's the freaking magic. You don't need to have, a trained model for anything. You just need to add the best part in here to get the best results out of
AI
it.
people love showing how smart they are by using the word RAG, retrieval augmented generation. But that's all this is doing right here is it's first searching and querying your documents for relevant shit. And then it's talking to the AI and doing inference on top of that. So you don't really need to know that, but you may have heard that word, and that's where you can attach that word to reality. Is this is kind of like building a RAG environment.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so here's our homepage, right? I'm just going to pop this over into Perplexity as a link. And that way it will press enter here. There we go. Be used as context, right? About our business. And similarly, like a Claude project or like even a Chat GPT project, right? The threads for this, every conversation that I have within this space is now easily discoverable and organized underneath them, right? And so why would I use a Perplexity space, right? Why would I do this? Well, let's say like I was going to be doing the same types of research for our specific course all the time related to, maybe competitive analysis, maybe, thinking about personas who specifically might be most interested in our AI upgrade for creative pros class, whatever the individual type of thread that I would have or task that I want to do, the things that would be most useful for all of these searches would be, what is our business? What is our class? What are we doing here? Right? Like, what is sort of the framing that I don't want to have to repeat in a prompt every single time, because that is going to take forever. And why, reinvent the wheel when you can just, build a little go-kart and have it, just continuously go. Yep. That was a terrible analogy, but you get the idea. I tried. So without further ado, the last thing before we talk a little bit about one of our student success stories is Notebook LM. This one works pretty much the same way, right? So we have, in this case,
people are most stoked about it. Y'all probably use the podcast function, that button on the purple button on the right, where you can drop in a few docs and get back a pretty cool podcast. And some of you guys have checked out my CBC AI show, where I go on the early edition and just kind of explore different AI topics or whatever. And I came to love Notebook LM through my relationship with the CBC show. Sometimes they call me and be like, Jeffrey Hinton just won a Nobel Prize in AI overnight in physics. Could you come on and talk about backpropagation and neural networks in an hour and a half or something like that? And I'm like, yo, I've got a good base of knowledge for talking about that, but some of the very, very specifics of his work I'm unfamiliar with. So I literally would just like drop a few papers from Jeffrey Hinton into Notebook LM, make a podcast, drop it on my headphones, and take the bus on into the CBC studio. And by the time I got there, I had heard, 3 audio podcast briefings about the very specific knowledge I was about to go talk about on the radio.
Yeah, that's genius, right? There's so many ways you can use these, and sort of, almost the polar opposite of Perplexity, right? In their spaces, the way this is set up is very insular, right? And so Perplexity space, all of that knowledge that you upload, whether those are links or files, PDFs, right? Those are used to help you find external stuff, right? Better, faster, more accurately, and deliver those results to you in a way, in a format, right, that you're looking for. That's going to be most helpful. The way that notebooks work is really sort of the opposite. You're going to need to add things. So common workflow would be go into Perplexity to find a lot of the good stuff, vet it, figure out what the most useful things are, pop it all into a notebook LM here. And then once you have it all in here, let's look at one from our colleague, Pete Paschal from Media Copilot that we teach the AI upgrade for, PR and media pros with. So we have 20 sources we've uploaded, including a lot of it.
Wow, you've got all of Pete's
Newsletters.
brain inside Notebook LM.
I know. Yes, we used his permission though, and he helped us sort of curate some of the stuff. But you'll see we have some of his podcast episodes, right, in text files. We have his LinkedIn profile. We have a bunch of stuff about his Media Copilot website. And we're not really even approaching the source limit. We're not even close, right? You can add 300 sources on the plus tier. Even with the free one, you can upload 50, which is a ton, right? And you can see here you're able to add and connect your Google Drive stuff directly if you want to. Pop in Google Docs, website URLs, YouTube URLs and links, the copied text directly if you want, or upload files. And the way it really blows my mind is that you can really then have a way to actually specifically do a few things that they're built for, which is study guide, briefing doc, timeline. Like just click a button and it'll generate some of these, right? Which is neat. But we can also have a specific conversation and chat with these sources, right? And it's going to act as Pete's, right? We're going to have some really cool stuff too if we want to generate an audio overview, right? And so I've already created one. I got to reload it here. But they have some really amazing abilities to literally chat with this auto-generated podcast that's created using only these sources that you've added to it, right? And so let's see if it works right now. And let me know if you guys can hear it out there for those of you watching.
We can't hear it.
Can you hear me? No?
No.
Can't hear it? All right. Well, we can share a link to what this sounds like in the comments afterwards, but I think it's going to take a bit to figure out here.
Hey Peter, would you just flip to my screen to my screen share for one quick sec?
Totally. Yeah, let's do that. Here we go. I think this is your screen now.
Can you see my class 1 prep AI journalism?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is just a page I built last night, and I'm just showing it because I built all these things like this AI glossary and 10 essentials of AI adoption under here. But you'll see these little podcast buttons. And what I did is here on the landing page, essentially, I created an audio overview of whatever's in this section. And this is an audio overview of whatever's in this section, because I've got 65 students and extensive documentation here with lots of different projects they can run and stuff. And so I figured if someone wasn't sure what was underneath these drop downs and just wanted to have a quick listen, they could listen to one of these 4 podcasts on the right-hand side. So anyway, that's just like a content producer implementation of Notebook that I just kind of invented yesterday.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I know I'm an audio learner, so I really like spinning up those, podcasts within Notebook LM. There's a lot of other tools that allow you to do that now too. And, curating your knowledge base and popping in a prompt with the system instructions to generate whatever you're looking for with it. That's a really cool ability. We're going to move on real quick here. If you're interested in any of these tools, like we go into much greater depth in all of our classes for different use cases that might be more relevant to you specifically. We also have, one-on-ones with our students in these courses.
Which actually shouldn't be just passed on by, because it's a major part of what makes these things awesome, both for us and for the students. So when you do buy the course, you get the 6 weeks of, coaching and sessions and access to the audio and all that, but you get 2 1-hour coaching sessions with Peter and I, and they're epic. It's our chance to dig into where you're actually at on your journey, or a particular problem or use case. And this is where, and help you find your capstone project. And this is where the course really gets into transformational, because we're able to just really kind of understand. I love being able to learn about everybody's very specific use cases and projects, and then adapt the learnings to them directly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had people come join us from Apple, from NASA. We have folks in our courses with Pete Paschal from Walmart and Netflix, right? We have a lot of entrepreneurs, career transitioners, folks from all types of small businesses as well. And it's a really fun mix, right? We have great cohorts. The live cohorts add so much to the mix. Here's just kind of a brief, overview of really what we do throughout the 6 weeks. Like in a nutshell, we start with kind of an overview of what the heck's going on. How is it relevant to you, right? In terms of the media industry shifting under our feet, really, the sands here constantly moving around. How can we get some firm footing and put some of these tools to use for us and still maintain sort of our humanity, right? And make sure that we are using them, in a way that adds to sort of, as Kris mentioned earlier, our feeling of like empowerment, right? And agency. That's super important. We then go into a lot of sort of the prompting and knowledge-based stuff that we've really just initially covered here in much greater detail. Week 3 is visual storytelling. That's like one of the my favorites every time. Everything from Mid-Journey to ideogram to, now we're definitely going to be, after this recent upgrade, right, for ChatGPT's native image generation, really digging
There's
into
a
that
lot
one.
going on in that world. Mid-Journey 7 came out 2 nights ago. Peter Durand, I'm going to call you by name, because GPT-4's new image generation that dropped last week is bonkers. Gets text right, makes interesting diagrams. I'd love to work with you to train a model on your style of doing things, and then seeing if there's some utility in that for you as like Peter, like, you're awesome at what you do, but you're very, very expensive, and you're only one human being, and you have to be there, on the location and stuff. And so it's like, well, how could we let some of the rest of the world share in the gold that is your knowledge and your approach to things, even if they can't afford your fee or something like that. And so maybe there's some utility in training a GPT brainstorming and visualization model on your previous note-taking type stuff. So it's incredible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways to, approach this and get value from it. Week 4 is all about building, custom GPTs, as well as, for those who are a little bit more advanced or interested in what comes next. This is where we really start to, dive into the deep end of things related to, agentic orchestration. So, and workflow automation using AI, right? So
Very
having
specific. Yeah, very specifically, if GPTs are below you and you've done one already, we're going to show you things like Make, Zapier, and Mind Studio to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and there's things like N8N that we've also played with. We also, have custom built and engineered a lot of our own ones too. And Kris is going to show a little Whisper Forge example soon. Week 5, we Peter says, "Turn me into Dr. Octopus."
I love the metaphor of a crystalline octopus. I often, when I think of AIs, I think of this crystalline ethereal octopus with its tendrils everywhere. So I'm into it, Peter.
Yep. Hit us up, send KK a note. But week 5 is, we have some really good deep heart-to-heart discussions about ethics and what it means for media makers and creatives, as well as, typically we reserve about half that class for things that have come up over the previous 4 weeks, to do kind of, especially if there's new things that drop, throughout that course, which happens inevitably, right? Things that are game changers. We spend a good part of that last week making sure that we close the loop on all that stuff. People are feeling good before the final week, which is capstone projects. And that is, I think, one of my favorite parts of the entire course is the ability to have people come and share out their reflections, their learnings, in some cases, their AI assistants they've built for themselves, or show and tell of their exploration with a number of these different tools throughout the previous
I
month
mean,
or
this
so.
is always a really humbling part of the class, because this is where the like axiom that the student will always exceed
Become the
the
master.
master. I mean, it's like the stuff that people produce. Sometimes I've never thought of it before. Definitely, sometimes I've never built it before, and it's what pushes me to. We've run this course 5 times over the last year. Well, what people are making now is better than some of the stuff I built a year ago. And it's like, well, Kris, you better keep your skills current so that when folks are showing up, your stuff's like right there at the edge. And so this is a really fun one where we're just like bringing what we're most passionate about and most interested in, and building the prototype of something that we can use in our careers. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. We have kind of an example of one student who absolutely crushed the final project. Vicky is a senior UX designer who had, no real coding background, and we were able to introduce her to some tools like, in this case, Versal, which is one of these vibe coding platforms. Most of them, whether you're using, Cursor or Lovable or Bolt.new or Versal, they're all running sort of Claude 3.7 sonnet model nearly universally, which is kind of like currently, at least at this moment, April 7th, 2025, right? The best model for coding, widely available at the right price point, right? And so Vicky really was in the point where she was building a new portfolio website, and was running into some ways in which she wanted to really break through some of the barriers to her sort of coding knowledge, and push herself to develop a little bit more skills through this vibe coding. And this was a project that I think just blew both of us away. She spent dozens of hours making something that is, really next level. I think I have it
I want
here.
to throw something into.
Yeah,
When we decided to use this, it was the real trigger that was that she couldn't access any of the screenshots or apps from her portfolio because of NDA reasons. So
that's
she
right.
needed to kind of like rethink how portfolio websites were built anyway. And so she felt stuck from the beginning. So it's like, well, let's start to talk to AI, maybe even generate some screens that were like the screens you made, but that aren't covered under NDA. And we can maybe bring those into our portfolio. And so that just whole process of asking ourselves how we could make the best site to represent our work led us into these no-code tools. And from there, she went as far down the rabbit hole as anyone I've ever seen, making like 130 revisions over time to her site. And it was
Right.
just so fun to watch her knowledge grow from like stuck and feeling like she'd never be able to show the world her best work to completely like reinventing herself through the capstone project.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is pretty cool. I like how we have some agency here too as a user to play around with this. That's pretty awesome. Um, anyway, we have, if you're interested, QR code in top corner here with a link to learn more about Vicky's project. We also have whoops, wrong tab here. Let's go back over. Let me find it. I think there we go. We'll drop it in the chat as well here, but there's also a final presentation that Vicky made, roughly 10-minute video of exactly what she did, all the different tools she used, right? Not just Versal, but, Figma, ChatGPT, Midjourney for different aspects of this to rebuild this
And not
entire
just like
portfolio.
about the successes, but about the failures, like all the troubles and
Mm,
heartache and the
yep.
the trough of despair that must be passed through, and the learning journey and stuff. It's a pretty great story.
Yeah, definitely. Vicky crushed it. Everyone has their own sort of hero's journey throughout the course, throughout, the learning journey. And, Vicky made full use of her one-on-ones with us, and, took a lot of the tools that we introduced and just really made them work for her. And that's the goal, right? We want to make sure people leave with a real life tangible thing, ideally, that helps them with their professional life, right? We've had people do so many different things. Again, this is just another visualization of our outline. We go into different modalities, designing AI assistants, some ethics conversations, and the capstone. We also, provide all of the recordings, slides, resources. We provide a bunch of different AI assistants ourselves that we distribute to students, that they use even after the class as well. We have LinkedIn badges we send out to everyone, which is cool afterwards. But we also have some early bird stuff. We actually, if you're interested, can pop that offer. We have an early bird deadline of Wednesday, April 9th, for 25% off. And where can you find more about our programs and stuff? So if you go to our website, we have a landing page here. We'll pop the link in as well. We've had our course QR code up that will take you to the landing page throughout this, and we'll make sure it's in the chat. But you can check out more details, hear more testimonials, etc. We have worked with a ton of great people. We're really excited for the next cohort. We already have a lot of people coming in from very cool fields, working at very high levels. The cohorts are so fun. We do have a few seats still open, and we'd love you to join us for the adventure and dive in.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hyperbole to say that the cohort does come together as a bit of a community, and there's like a reinforcement of everyone's learning together. So it's like you can't learn everything, Nessa. Good thing Peter Duran's going to be there too to teach you what he's been learning, and vice versa and stuff. And so we find that a lot of people like stay in touch as a cohort after it's over. Some people even try to subscribe to coaching on an ongoing basis even after the course is over. But yeah, that probably says plenty.
Yeah, totally. Let's jump into Whisper Forge. I know we're a tiny bit over time, but I really want to make sure that you get a chance to show this off, and I can't wait to see it because it's been a week and I know you've been hammering away at it.
All right, send it on over and I'll give a quick demo here. So This Whisper Forge tool just represents the culmination of a lot of what I've been learning along the way. I'm going to take you on the admin screen here real quick first into the configuration part. You'll see here that I've got a knowledge base included where I can add files to the knowledge base, and these are all my custom prompts. So what I'm about to do is upload an audio file and then run a series of prompts against it and then have it dropped off in my knowledge base. The prompts I'm going to run against it are wisdom extraction, summarize the content, create an outline that I'm going to use to write a blog post with, create some social media posts, and create some image prompts. All right. So that's the behind the scenes part. We'll go to the home page here, go browse to an audio file. We've got an audio file here that's just one line of a song. And the first thing I'm going to do is transcribe it. See, the audio file is here. So this is talking to OpenAI's Whisper right now, and it grabbed this transcription. Swing low, sweet chariot coming forth to carry me home. Now you get a couple different options. You can either generate the complete pipeline, which is all of these things, wisdom, social media, images, and the full article, or you can do them one by one. And let's just do it all at once. Here we go. Firing away. Step one, it took the transcript and is extracting the wisdom from it. So from one line of Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, my bot has pulled out all these key ideas. The spiritual became internationally recognized through the Jubilee Singers when they toured in the 70s, and on and on and on. And then the insights from that. Usually, if it's a long transcript like this call, you'd have all the best, smartest things Peter and I said right here under quotes. But this one, there was only one.
And other people. We have a lot of things.
Fair enough. Okay, the transcript just got done. So now it's running the outline. We can see here, step 2. It just ran the outline. Now it's creating the social media content. And in 1 second here, it is going to write the actual article. And then if all goes well, it's going to push it to my Notion, and I'm excited to show everyone that part as well. So it's sitting there writing behind the scenes. And Yeah, so like this week, I'm covering the Indigenomics Institute Impact event. It's like a 3-track conference of full days of talks about economic reconciliation in Canada. I'll be recording on just little, personal recorders in all 3 of those rooms. Hey, green light. And I'll be putting all of the things I record here into WhisperForge and creating a knowledge base from it. So let's check that out. Open in Notion. So this is a Notion page that I'm super proud of. If anyone uses Notion, you can see why it's so awesome. This is a title generated by AI. These are tags also generated by a different call to AI. Here's where all the goods. Oh, here's a little summary for the homepage, so I don't have to actually
right now I'm seeing just your window saying redirecting to your Notion app. So
bummer. Okay, hold on.
maybe continue in browser for now or something. But yeah, so what Kris has built here in a nutshell is something that allows you to continue to add to your knowledge base while pulling out the best stuff and enabling you to instantly create content from it at the same time from whatever transcript he's uploading. So it's doing a couple different things, right? It's allowing you to pull out that extracted wisdom, the key quotes, generate content immediately from it, which is again
in my voice, in my style, that ends up back in my home.
Exactly. Then it goes right back in your home over to Notion into your knowledge base to help further, this sort of
the virtuous circle of like have a great conversation with AI, learn something, put it in your knowledge base, consider that a part of your now learnings, and go forth. All right, Peter, let me take one more quick crack at it, please.
Yeah, for sure. Let's add it to stage here. Awesome. Yes.
So this is my Notion page that was created. A AI generated title, African American Spiritual of Liberation and Hope. Tags for categorization made by AI, including Elijah's chariot, slave songs, biblical imagery. This is a 1-line transcript so that you don't have to actually dive into each of all these sections, and some metadata, how many tokens were used, what model processed it, where the original audio file is. But now check this out, right? There's my little transcript. Here's all the wisdom extracted from it, and all the way down to a draft post, The Power of Coded Harmony, Understanding African-American Spirituals Through Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, a PhD thesis. There she goes.
It's amazing what's possible. Heck yeah. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with us, whether you're watching live now or the replay. We really appreciate you joining us, and we hope you'll consider coming to our next cohort. It starts April 23rd. It takes place weekly. If you go check out our landing page here in the comments, you'll see all of the times and all of that. They're 2-hour sessions every week. And again, you have those one-on-one coaching sessions, capstone, LinkedIn badge. We've had probably over 100 students, well over now, come through from all different types of companies and organizations and roles within sort of the creative, umbrella. And we'd love to hear.
I think we have a student in here actually at the bottom that said you guys made it easy, which I think might be
It's Vicky. Vicky is here.
Nice to see you, Vicky. That's so cool.
Vicky. Yeah, really stoked for you and what you've built with your website using Versal. Yeah, you taught us a lot too during the capstone presentation. I've since been using Lovable and other tools and have gone into some convos and threads where I have, several hundred back and forth iterations, and using sort of those prompt frameworks and adding more context and all that really helps. But heck yeah.
That's so cool. Maybe we're building our courses wrong, that they're only 6 weeks long instead of 12, 18, or forever and ever. Amen. Because a lot of people are pretty disappointed when they're over and looking for ways to stick around. But hey, we're very accessible. Y'all know where to find us, probably here on our LinkedIn. We'd love to answer your questions. I got to rock and roll, but I hope to see everyone in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So check out the 25% off discount. Again, it ends on Wednesday, April 9th, very end of the day. We also have, I will say, discounts for NGOs, as well as educators, as well as freelancers, transitioners, etc.
If you want to bring 5 people from your team. We've had like the UC California system bring 4 or 5 people from their team almost every cohort. We've got a couple teams who maybe I haven't asked their permission to mention, but we've got a couple teams joining the next one. And yeah, bring your whole crew.
We hope to see you there. All right. Looking forward to the next one, KK. And thanks for tuning in and watching. Drop us a comment if you enjoyed this or found anything useful.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
I can't wait to see what it looks like now, Vicky, after the next 189 variations.
I know. All right. Take care,
Over
everyone.
and out for now, Peter. That's